This is the Night Owls Disc Golf Podcast. I'm Shane.
And I'm JP.
And I'm Mike Harrington. No, just kidding. Ryan Miller.
So this is Ryan Miller, Caddie Disc Golf. Thank you, Disc Golf. And Discmania sponsored, right?
Correct.
See, there you go. So let's throw out the social medias here. So door_disc_golf. You can find us. Night_owl_pod. Also, doordisc.com. Ryan, you want to throw yours out there?
Yeah, my Instagram handle is Caddie Disc Golf. Same on YouTube if you're into YouTube content. And then Thank You Disc Golf is my newest brand, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. So we just had the Door County Fall Classic up here, a disc golf tournament that we run yearly. It's 6 years, and Mike Harrington actually runs it, who, if you've been following the podcast for quite a while, was our first fanboy, right? Our first stalker, actually.
Yeah. Right. He gave us some jerky.
Yeah, JP had to put blinds on his bathroom window because of Mike. So, but and if you know the story, Mike lives in Milwaukee. We live in Door County, and it's about a 3.5 hour drive. So Mike is dedicated. So, Ryan, let's get to you. So you're here after the tournament with your lovely wife, child, and dog.
Yes.
So enjoying Door County?
Yeah, I love it up here. I had only ever first come up here for the tournament back in, I think my first year was 19, I think was the first year I did it. Maybe 18. I forget my first year. But I would come here for disc golf, and then I'd go home and never actually got to explore and look around and enjoy all the things that so many people talked about it. So decided to take a handful of days to hang out after the tournament and explore. My wife, kid, and dog came up Sunday night after the event, and we've been here ever since.
Well, and let's not forget the spider, too.
Yes. Yeah. So I own a 2001 Toyota MR2 Spider. It's a car I've wanted for a very long time, and just now at the age of 31, I think I'm 31. Yeah, 31.
My fingers to help.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
What year is it?
Yeah, at the age of 31, I was able to buy, and it's a two-seater convertible for those that don't know what that car is, because it was not popular when it was released. It still really isn't, but I love it. And it's the ultimate roadster. So I drove it up the 3.5 hours that you mentioned, and it's been awesome driving that car on the curvy roads up here and with the fall leaves and colors and stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's a beautiful color, too.
Oh, yeah. The yellow.
Yes,
It's just
it is.
canary yellow. Yeah.
I actually call it diet yellow. If you look at like any other yellow car, it's like yellow, and then I park next to it and it looks like I was mixed with too much water or something. So, but that's okay. It's the technical color name for it is Toyota's solar yellow. So I like to think like it's cooler than it actually is. So.
Sure.
Yeah. They did that. I used to deal in Tacomas or X-Runners specifically, and they only came out ever in 5 colors. And it wasn't just black. It was black sand pearl. And it wasn't just blue. It was speedway blue. Radiant red. Those are the numbers. Toyota loves doing that.
Yeah, my Corolla that I owned last year, I sold it recently, but it was called Brown Sugar. And I was like, that's such a weird name until I noticed like in the sun. Yeah. In the sun, it was pretty brown, but then once it was cloudy, it was like gray. I'm like, okay, brown, like I'd call it Brown Sugar, I guess. So
who's the guy that figures that out? Like, who's the person that goes, Brown Sugar?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, exactly. This guy's brilliant.
I don't know, but he probably makes way more money than us.
All the important decisions at Toyota.
I think about the colors that I have to try to come up with for naming discs when they come on the site. Yeah. And I end up with a lot of blue-ish and purple-ish.
I like it.
That are names on the site. So,
well, next time you get like a color that's very light blue, like call it diet blue. I think it'll make people laugh.
Exactly. Or the like the brownish color. I'm going to call it Brown Sugar.
Brown Sugar. Yes, I love it.
So I want to talk more about the car because I've seen videos on Facebook and Instagram about racing. How did you get into the racing with the car?
Yeah, so I was never Like, it was never intended that I was going to get into racing. The type of racing that I do is called autocross, which is just think of like road courses set up in parking lots using cones and just time attack. You're just trying to get through the cones as fast as you can, faster than the other people in your class. Turns out the MR2 Spider is one of the best handling vehicles out there. It doesn't have a lot of power, but in autocross, power doesn't get you anything anyhow. And so I have a friend of mine who has been autocrossing for a lot of years. He has like numerous cars that he autocrosses, a Corvette and an S2000, which are very different cars. But he invited me to try it, and it's one of the only places that you can legally drive like a lunatic and enjoy it. So that was kind of...
And people cheer you on.
Yeah, exactly. So, and if you like spin out, you hit a cone, like lick your finger and wipe the scuff off. You know what I mean? So low risk, not extremely expensive, but you still get to learn a lot about like driving technique and, you know, stuff that you just don't learn driving 35 miles per hour down the road on your daily commute. So I never intended to get into it, but it turns out that I'm a huge fan of it. And so that's kind of where that hobby has developed. And I would say I did my first event last year, 2021. And then this year I did 4. So I think 4 is probably the most I'll do in a year because they can get kind of expensive. But yeah, it's a blast.
Is it just around Wisconsin?
So you can autocross everywhere.
Yeah.
I only ever do Wisconsin because like it's easier to drive the car to the event, race it, and then come home. But like they have nationals every year, and that is in I think Lincoln, Nebraska, somewhere in Nebraska. And so you can, you know, you get points just like our Wisconsin tour. You get points based on how you place and your times and stuff. And those points qualify you for, you know, like nationals and so forth. So I don't know that I would ever do enough races to ever qualify. My buddy that I referenced earlier, he and his dad have done nationals numerous times, and it typically takes anywhere from 8 to 12 events to even qualify. And, you know, I have too many hobbies to commit that much time to just one. So, yeah, but it's a good time. I really enjoy it, and I'm really excited to do more of it next year and get better. Yeah.
And this is all SCCA based.
That's 100% correct.
Yeah.
There are different clubs, like Madison has their own club, Milwaukee has their own club, Fox Valley has their own club. Those are the 3 that I primarily raced with this year, but I'm not a member of any of them, so I just show up once in a while and rip around their parking lots. We actually race at Road America once a year too, but it's on the go-kart track, which again is perfect for autocross because it's pretty much adult go-karting anyhow. And so that's an absolute blast because you're not just weaving in and out of cones, you're actually on a track and you have to stay on track and so forth. So
and you get some of the elevation changes on
yeah,
that course
you
too.
do.
That's
you
cool.
do. The first event I ever did was at Road America, and my last event this year is literally just 3 weeks ago was on Road America, and we did the reverse of the track. So like I was going backwards, so it was really cool. It felt like a completely different track.
That's awesome.
So
That's great.
yeah.
I did a short stint of that just for promotion because my very first company I ever owned was a suspension part company. And it was for trucks, and we used to do some SCCA, and I was in a supercharged class because my truck was supercharged. But I know a lot of the guys used to run in some of the naturally aspirated classes. Some of these guys were just super quick, but we went Road America, and I didn't race Road America, but I got to watch some of the guys that did the Road America stuff. It's incredible how quick some of these cars are.
Truly.
Like, I'm just sleepers, just like these little like Hondas that go out there, and all of a sudden they're just ripping around these little tracks. And
It's funny that you mentioned that. So I am in a class called STR, which stands for Street Touring Roadster. And it's because I have like wider aftermarket wheels and I have like suspension components. So that kind of qualified me into a higher class than stock, which I wish I would have stayed stock and started and like really learned how to drive on like stock suspension before I started building it to handle better. Because I just think I would have learned so much more, but that's okay. But because of that, I'm getting absolutely wrecked in these classes. Like if I finish mid-pack, I'm like feeling really good because they're far more talented than me. But you mentioned Honda. There's a CRX Do you remember the CRX?
Yeah, I have a friend who drives one.
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah.
There's a CRX that attends all the events that I go to. It's very clean, but he absolutely shreds. Like, it's crazy how fast it is. And the car suspension is so stiff that every turn he's three-wheeling. I mean, it's so cool to see. And he trailers it there. Like, you can tell it's very dedicated to autocross, and it's really cool to, what's nice is a CRX is a pretty affordable platform to build, but I can't imagine how much money he has into it. Just like it performs really well.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to do skid plates and stuff. They would always set up at shows. They'd set up all these things for G plates and skid plates. And I remember the very first time I ever went on a skid plate, it was like one of the coolest things I'd ever done, because you just get into it, you start going in a circle, and then you just all of a sudden give as much gas as you can until the tires break. And then as soon as the tires break loose, then you let it go and you just come back. But they put accelerometers in it, so they tell how much G you're pulling. And it was one of the coolest things. And our trucks that we worked on, like stock, you were still pulling close to a G in corners.
Yeah.
Like, it was incredible. And then with suspension components, I mean, you can get up to like 1.2, 1.3. That's a huge amount of G's in a car.
Yeah.
Like,
It's funny that you bring that up, because I recently became a huge Formula One fan.
okay.
And I never really paid much attention to it until, my son came into the mix, and we, had time on our hands, paternity leave, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just sat and watched on Netflix. They have this series called Drive to Survive.
Yep.
Ken, who is on the Door Disc Golf Parliament team, and my buddy Jarrett were like, "You got to watch this. You're gonna love it." And I put it off until I had the time to watch it. And I've never binged a season in my life, and I watched all 4 seasons. It's like 20 episodes each, 45 minutes each in like a week. Like, it was
Holy
ridiculous.
cow, that's a lot.
And just like that, I like started watching Formula One on Sundays, and like even during the tournament this Sunday during lunch, I was streaming the United States Grand Prix.
Oh, wow.
So just became a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
But all that to say, the amount of G's that they pull in those vehicles is absurd. We're talking 5, 6, 7 G's.
It's nuts.
And you'll notice every driver has the largest neck you've ever seen. And they're rated to, like, they can lift like 150 pounds just with their necks.
Yeah,
and it's
geez.
to handle that G-force.
Yeah.
And, like, I've never, if you're a racer, sorry to offend you, I've never, like, viewed a racer as, like, an athlete. Because I'm like, yeah, you're shredded, but why? You sit in a vehicle. Until you realize what their body has to endure. A Formula One racer can lose up to 10 pounds from start to race to end of race.
Yeah.
And it's incredible when you think about it.
Yeah.
So I bring that up because, 1 G's, 1.2 G's in a little car like ours is pretty significant. And then you factor in what Formula One drivers deal with, and it's like incredible.
It is nuts. Yeah. And though, I mean, that's like fighter pilot G's.
Truly.
That's like almost blackout G's.
Truly.
Like, that's a lot. I mean, they don't hold them as long as fighter pilots and stuff like that, but that's nuts.
Yeah.
Just nuts.
I mean,
In
we're
a car.
talking like turns that would probably have 10 mile per hour, 15 mile per hour signs for us. They're taking at like 100 miles per hour. Like, it's just incredible. It's so incredible.
But how fun would that be?
Oh my gosh. It would be the scariest but
Yeah.
most exhilarating thing ever.
I really want to go to Vegas when that's in Vegas.
Next year.
Is it next year?
Next
Yeah.
year.
right
And I'm
down
really
the street.
sad because one of the drivers, his name is Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah.
He, back when he was with Red Bull a handful of years ago, he had said that his dream is to race in Vegas. And they announced that there would be a Grand Prix in Vegas next year. And he said, well, I was considering retiring, but now I'm not gonna. Like, I've been waiting for this forever. And he actually lost his spot with McLaren and has not signed. So there's a really good chance that he's not on the grid next year when they race in Las Vegas. And so it's like, it's when I say how, like, that I've become emotionally attached to Formula One based on my short stint of, like, following it. Like, the thought of Daniel Ricciardo not being on the grid genuinely makes me sad. Like, I'm very emotionally involved in Formula One now. So, yeah. So that's just, you know what? If Ken and Jared are listening to this, they're probably shaking because they have to hear me all the time. Like, oh my gosh, did you know this? Did you see this? Did you see this? And, like, it's to the point where they're just leaving my messages on red because they're like, this guy is a lunatic now. So, but yeah, I'll stop.
Yeah, my father-in-law was a huge Formula One fan, and he'd wake up every morning like real early just to watch. He was a huge Michael Schumacher fan. back in the
Incredible
day.
legend, yeah.
Yeah. And so God rest his soul, my father-in-law, and everything. But yeah, he got me into it a little bit, and then Luke and Tyler have been talking about it.
Yeah, because they watched Survive.
Yeah. So it's cool. It's a great sport. It's so much more fun to watch than like
It's funny
NASCAR.
because most of the drivers on the grid hate that Netflix are in their face all the time.
I'm sure.
But it's been one of the biggest things for the sport, especially in America.
Yeah, the North American
In
market.
the United States Grand Prix that was just in Austin this past weekend had over 400,000 people in attendance, which is the highest it's been all year. And that would never have been the case if it wasn't for Drive to Survive, like teaching people about Formula One. I didn't realize how much drama there was in it. And there's a lot of drama. I mean, there's 10 teams, 2 racers a team, so you have 20 people on the grid. There are a lot of people that are at Formula One level out there, but only 20 of them get to race. And so, like, maintaining your seat is extremely hard to do. And so, like, the amount of drama that comes between switching sponsors or losing your seat. Or last year there was a Russian driver that got kicked out of the F1 because of everything that happened in Russia. And so it's just like, it adds another side of just like, you know, you're not just watching a car go around the track really fast. Like, there's stuff going on behind the scenes too that kind of keeps you interested in it.
Yeah.
So now I know some people that are like, it's too dramatic for me. Like, it's not even racing at this point. I want nothing to do with it. And I get it, especially because up until recently, there were no caps for how much you could spend on your car. So all of the larger companies like your Red Bulls, your Mercedes, they have way more money to use. And so their cars naturally were always way faster. And they're trying, exactly. And so, like Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, won 7 in a row. I mean, just absolute dominance. Well, actually not 7 in a row. I think his teammate one year beat him instead in the same car, which that's pretty dramatic too. And then he went and retired. So, but like, you know, I know some people are like, it's all about money. The more money you have, the more success you have in Formula One. And there are 2 drivers that are on the grid right now that are on the grid because daddy's money saved the team and said, here's the clause. Like, I'll buy your team and keep you in Formula One if my son gets to be one of your drivers.
Sure.
Like, so money does play a role in it,
Sure.
but it's, you know, I seem to ignore that and focus more on the talent that comes with racing. So.
Yeah. That is awesome. So that's a lot like what people were hoping that the Big Money Skins match was going to produce for us. I mean, it brought drama, but I don't think it was
Not the right kind of drama. That's so unfortunate, especially because, and I know you and I were talking about it earlier, you know, GK Pro being out of Tulsa. I actually have a lot of ties in Tulsa. I take a disc golf trip every year to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been going since 2018 now, or 2019 now. My friend Nate and Richard and a handful of other friends live down there. I'm sure you've heard of Wide Dry Chalk Bags. No longer a company, unfortunately, but, you know, like they all live in the Tulsa area. So I go down to Tulsa all the time. And as I was starting to go down to Tulsa, GK Pro was really just doing like local tournaments, and that's it. Like they just were like, hey, we know how to use cameras. Let's start recording some of our tournaments in the area. And I remember on one of my earlier trips, it was like 2020 or something like that, I went down there and the GK Pro guys were just playing around casually in front of us. I mean, they were just everyday Joe Schmoes in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And, you know, now they're a huge deal. And so to see what they were able to come up with up until the disaster that kind of happened is unfortunate.
Well, and what I'm understanding is it's not their... It wasn't GK Pro that had the huge issues, but unfortunately they were backing them. They were kind of supporting it. So it seems like they're getting a lot of flack for mistakes that were, I guess, in essence, outside of their control. You know,
Exactly.
So yeah, it's unfortunate to see it, but you know they're coming out with post-produced, so hopefully that'll be a lot cleaner.
Well, it's interesting too because weren't they the ones that were doing the post-produced for Disc Golf Network, like during the tour?
Maybe FPO.
Maybe.
I forget.
I don't know.
I think they were certainly involved.
Card,
They were certainly involved.
For at least for Silver Series, right? Like they would do post-produce for Silver Series events.
Yeah, I think they had some of them.
Yeah. You're onto something. It's funny because like my friends that I mentioned in Oklahoma, whenever they were featured on like cards in their local tournaments, they'd send me the coverage so I could watch.
Oh, that's cool.
the music that GK Pro used to use for their whole flyovers was so bad that I muted every flyover. Like it was just like this really weird whistling type of song, and it's funny because as soon as I hear it, I get stuck in my head and I whistle it for like 6 hours straight. But they've evolved it, and now it's like much better. In fact, one of their intro songs is like one of the best songs that's in disc golf coverage right now.
Yeah, like the OTB Skin song.
Yes.
Is like I can't get that out of my head anytime I ever hear it. Yeah.
That's exactly it. So it's been really cool to see, and they've been making coverage long before I've had ties to Tulsa. So it's cool to see that.
Yeah. The beauty of disc golf is it is still so small. Even though for us it's getting so big, it's still so small. You still run into those people that are everyday, there are icons, are celebrities, and you still run into them out in the disc golf course. I mean, not around here, but, in other larger cities. Like you go to South Carolina, you're bound and determined to run into somebody.
Totally.
Or North Carolina, excuse me.
Yeah.
Or I guess both either.
Yeah, I met my friend from Oklahoma, Nate, that I just mentioned. Him and I, a couple of years during COVID, we met up in Columbia to play because it's like kind of a middle point for us, and we wanted to play
Missouri, by the way. Right?
Yes, okay. Columbia, Missouri. We wanted to play
Harmony Bends?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Harmony Bends. And we played Albert Oaks. I think that's what it's called, Albert Oaks. And Cynthia Riccati was just playing right in front of us.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
We just playing around during leagues, and that was a funny day. We went and bagged some league. It was random draw doubles, and he was in the pro division, and I naturally got put in the pro division because I didn't know where to play, and him and his partner took first, and me and my partner took second. So we came and stole their money, which is super funny. But yeah, Cynthia Riccati was there, and is it Riccati? Thank you.
Yeah.
Cynthia, if you happen to stumble on this, I'm very sorry. She's technically a teammate, kind of. But yeah, so it was really cool to kind of run into her and see her around. But I guess that's like Haley King for us, just like the local that we've seen for so long. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we always talk about the time where Jordan and I were just watching Hammis throw off the deck at Riverside, West Bend. It's just like these huge turnovers, and they're trying to get over near I think it was hole 10's pin, and like Hammis is like this tiny, skinny little, and just throwing bombs, and just remembering that, just going, yeah, I guess I could see that,
Yeah.
He's always been a putter the way he is. So
I remember playing Terry's Skyline Classic back in like 2017 and seeing like 15-year-old Haley King winning the event and being like, dang, this girl's got it.
Yeah.
And then seeing her blow up. So
yeah.
we have a lot of fortunate talent out of this area.
So talk about fortunate talent. Tell us about your disc golf story.
I don't have talent to talk about. For everyone listening, I'm like 915 rated. So, so I started disc golfing in 2011. I worked at a Cousin Subs. Y'all have Cousin Subs up here?
Not
Green
up
Bay.
this way. Green Bay
does?
yeah.
Okay. So I was in college, and I started working at a Cousin Subs, and my manager was like, dude, you got to come disc golf. And I just made fun of him for the entire rest of the shift. I'm like, dude, I skateboard, and who throws frisbees? That's so dumb. He just kept, he stayed persistent. He's like, come on, just try it. And I'm a pretty open-minded person, so I did end up trying it. And it's funny because I remember him being like, you're gonna want to get loose, and I'm like, dude, I'm throwing a frisbee. This is so stupid. And so he took me. I remember my second hole, I found a Pro Wraith, and I'm like, gosh, I don't even have to buy discs. I can just find them. You know what I mean? We played a course out by us called Spassland. It's a 9-hole course. I think the farthest hole is 200 feet, wide open. You could just hyzer a putter on every hole. And I found a Pro Wraith there. But I ended up having an absolute blast. I remember we drove right to the store, and he bought my first disc, which was a DX Skeeter.
Oh, yeah.
DX Skeeter.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember working the next day and not able to walk because my back hurt so bad because I didn't stretch or anything. So, but yeah, he got me into it. And this same guy went to high school with Ken, so I met Ken right around the same time. And yeah, we just casually disc golfed for 3-4 years after that. I didn't really know much about the PDGA or anything. I just knew I had friends that liked to go play, so I'd go play. And then in 2015, Ken was living in Erie, Pennsylvania at the time for his job. And that's when Pro Worlds was at Moraine State Park outside of Pittsburgh. And so we decided, me and the friend that got me into it and another one of our friends decided to drive out and stay by Ken. We were going to camp with Ken. He was going to show us some of his courses. And then we were going to go spectate and watch Pro Worlds. And so we ended up doing that. And I remember like driving in, like seeing all the spectators and stuff. It's like, holy cow, this is a real thing. And I remember Simon Lizotte being my like favorite pro at that point. And I remember like not knowing anybody else. I saw Eagle walk across the road wearing his like Team Discmania polo, and I was like, wait, is that Simon? No way. I didn't know. But from there I watched, that was when Worlds did 5 rounds and then a final 9. And I watched the final 9 was Paul Macbeth, Ricky Wysocki, Will Schustrick, and then oh my gosh, Steve Brinster.
Oh.
And what was so sick about that Worlds was we were following Nico's card.
Okay.
And in front of Nico was Steve Brinster's card. And on this nasty par 4, I watched Brinster throw a roller that got him into eagle range. And Nico proceeded to bogey his last hole. And that stroke swing knocked Nico out of the final 9. So, like, Steve Brinster, even though he didn't have a chance at winning because Paul and Ricky and Will were, like, so far ahead.
Yeah, they were on
like, it was so cool to see, like, this older guy, you know, competing with these guys. Yeah. But after that trip, I went home and became a PDGA member. And was like, okay, I'm going to get into this. And then 2 weeks later, I broke my throwing arm.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was like, okay, I'm a PDGA member now, though, so we're still going to do it. So I played my first tournament, Skyline Classic, in 2016 with my opposite arm. I think I shot like an 812,
sure,
like rated round or something like that. So, but that's how I got into like the competitive side of disc golf, and it's kind of spiraled since. Yeah, I guess.
So now you say opposite arm. Right now, you don't really have a dominant arm anymore, do you?
That's correct. There's a story there too. My friend that got me into disc golf, he was asking me what arm that I like write with. And I was like, I'm right-handed, but for some reason the throwing motion lefty just feels very natural. And I didn't play baseball. It's not like I'm used to that swing motion or anything. Yeah. It just felt different. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, if you're right-handed, you throw righty. Simple as that. So I played my first handful of months right-handed thinking like, okay, that's just the way it is. And then we went on a trip up to Big Old Plain. Have you ever played that course?
Never.
So it's in Mosinee. It's a campground, 2 pins, 2 tee pads. So kind of like the wilderness, sure. A lot of options to play. Mm. And we went up there to camp. And literally the first day of the road trip, we had like 9 courses on our docket for that week. I did something to my shoulder. I don't know if I tore my rotator cuff or it was bad. I couldn't even lift my arm up. Oof. And so I was like, I'm not going to waste this trip. So I threw lefty. And by the end of the trip, I was already better left-handed than I was at that point righty. And my friend, like, he, to this day, he still kind of swallows it. Like, I should have had you start lefty. You know? So I played left-handed up until 2015, where I broke it skateboarding. Skateboarding was, like, my number one hobby. It's been doing that for over 20 years and still intermittently do it now at 31. But, I snapped my arm and dislocated 2 of my fingers on that same arm. So I had surgery. I had metal put in it. So I have 8 screws and a plate still. And I just figured if I was going to keep disc golfing, I would need to learn how to throw righty. And then I stuck to righty for a few years because, like, if I tried to throw lefty, it just hurt. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I don't want to, like, rebuild my arm and then go to a tournament with it just aching and not be able to play. So I just stuck to both of them. And so, like, I'll throw a lot of mid-ranges and stuff left-handed. If I throw a lot of hard power shots with it, it'll start to get sore. But because of that, I keep my righty throws pretty regular too, because if my arm does hurt, then I have that to work on. So even at the Orchards this past weekend, which is a very lefty, in my opinion, very lefty-friendly course. I primarily threw left-handed because, it works really well for it. And the holes aren't, like, insanely far, so I can, do it without. But round 2, I was feeling super sore. But so today, yeah, I really don't have a arm. I think my Discmania profile says I'm right-handed. Because at the time I pretty much was only right-handed, but like I putt lefty still. Circle 1 is lefty, circle 2 is righty. I don't understand why, it just is. So
I enjoyed the left hand or left Ryan versus right Ryan or whatever it was that you did that in video. I was like, dude, this is great. I love that. Just wish I had that type of talent. You know?
well, and it's funny because Eagle started doing that, and everyone's like, Eagle is setting the standard, and I'm just like, if I had exposure, I would have been setting the standard. I've been doing this for years.
Exactly.
But I guess I'm just ahead of the curve. I think we're going to start to see a lot more players throwing with both arms.
Yeah.
I know like the sidearm virtually does the same thing, but sometimes the sidearm just like if you're tucked in somewhere tight, it doesn't work, and that lefty backhand has a better angle, and so.
Well, and the spin rates are a bit different between a forehand and a backhand.
Exactly.
And the finishes are always going to be different. So
Totally.
Yeah.
And so like I think that we're going to start to see more people leveraging both of them. So I will say though, as much of a perk as being able to throw with both arms is, one of the like probably the most underrated part of disc golf that people don't talk about is like disc and shot selection. And I've now complicated it by adding another option in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is something like, what is the lefty hyzer or the righty hyzer best for this hole? Then once I decide that,
like,
what disc do I want?
Yeah.
So it's like, I really have added another decision, and I'm 915 rated, so like, very much an amateur and often make the wrong decisions. And even when I do make the wrong decision or right decisions, I don't always execute on the shot. So it's like, that is one of the downfalls is like, okay, now I get confused on what arm I want to throw with. But I would say the benefits outweigh them for sure.
Cool.
yeah, I bet.
No.
So now your involvement with Discmania, how did that come about? Was it through one of the combines or was it completely separate?
Yeah, completely separate actually. So I started my brand Caddie Disc Golf in 2017. And really, I didn't really have any. Honestly, it started as a photography business. I've been really into photography for many years, and I actually had some conversations about like with Alyssa Van Lannen, who obviously Wisconsin legend when it comes to photography.
Yep.
And I had wanted to offer like a photography service for our local tournaments. I never had the dream of being like Alyssa Van Lannen, going on tour and being tour photographer, but I knew that I wanted to leverage my talents to, photograph things. And so I ended up shooting Terry's Skyline Classic one year, which was awesome. It was the year that Valerie and Nate Doss came. So that was like super cool, and like followed their card and took photos. And I photographed Donnie Ferguson's Prodigy games that he runs at Manitowoc. I photographed that like 2 years ago, I think. 3 years ago, maybe. And so the whole goal was to like just do photography and like kind of grow there. When you think of like what a caddy is for a golfer, like the caddy's entire goal is to serve that golfer and to set them up for success. That's what I essentially kind of wanted to do with my platform, and by doing so, like with photography and like allowing people to revisit their tournaments and so forth. Turns out a lot of TDs don't budget for photographers because they're already so expensive and so forth. And so I kind of let that dream go and just started to use my passion for connecting with people and social media to just share my own journey, and kind of blew up into what it is now. The way that I got introduced to Discmania was I actually was connected with Dana Vici, who at the time lived just a handful of hours from me, being a Discmania pro. I was throwing just primarily Discmania back then anyhow. And that comes from skateboarding. And skateboarding, the board that you skate or the wheels that you buy, the shoes that you wear are based on your favorite pros. My favorite pro being Simon. I threw what he did for that reason.
Yeah.
It comes from skateboarding. So naturally, I got connected with Dana, and we followed each other on Instagram, and no big deal. I remember he sent me a Luster MD, and we just kind of got connected in that way. And one day he messaged me and he's like, "Hey man, you're pretty good at like making content. Like you should apply for Discmania's media team." He's like, "Just let me know if you do it. I'll throw a good word in for you." And so I thought a lot about it, and I'm like, "Well, I'm already throwing a lot of Discmania as is. I don't really know what the media team entails, but it'd be really cool to work with them." So I applied, and yeah, I got the email saying, "Yeah, you're in." And then 6 months later, I got an email saying the media team is no more. And I was like, "Well, that was fun.
Oh,
That
wow.
was fun while it lasted." And it was followed up by we're moving to an ambassador program.
Oh, okay.
So we had like talent ambassadors and media ambassadors. Talent ambassadors being you're not like quite pro level, but you're good. You're MA1, or maybe you're playing open. You're 975 rated, and you're an ambassador for the sport, that sort of thing. And then there's the people that are social media. They're 1,000 rated social media posters, which is what I kind of identified as during that time, and so I was on the media team, media ambassador team. And that is still kind of the way it is now, but like at least on the site, they just have a plethora of just ambassadors now.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been an ambassador since then. I think that was around 2017 or 18 that I started working with them, and it's been really, really good. My team manager for the longest time was Avery Jenkins, but he's a very busy man. So they actually hired a person this year to kind of focus primarily on us, and he used to be a Discmania media partner. So, so it's been really, really cool working with them, and I've gotten to connect with a lot of other Discmania ambassadors. I'm not like because again, I'm sponsored for my ability to post really cool photos and videos. I'm not sponsored because I can shoot really low scores and super high rated rounds. So like Simon, Eagle, like they don't know I exist. It's not like I'm a big deal with Discmania or anything. I just have my picture on their website, and they use some of my content for promoting their stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. That is cool. So when you started Caddie and were doing disc reviews, were Discmania discs the first reviews you were doing, or was there other stuff before the Discmania reviews?
I don't think I've ever reviewed any other manufacturer but Discmania.
Okay.
I've had some reviews that have featured some others. Like when I reviewed the Razor Claw, I compared it to a Zone and a Harp.
Yeah, I remember that.
But that's it. Like I've never made review video, and the YouTube channel is a whole nother story on how that started. But I didn't do any reviews until I started working with Discmania, and even then I only started doing reviews to try to like build a portfolio before I reached out to Discmania and said, "Hey, this is what I'm capable of doing with my iPhone 13 and well, at the time it's probably iPhone 10." But yeah,
that's cool. And then were they giving you guidelines as far as what they wanted you to shoot, or is it like, hey, just like make something and like let us see it, and then whatever?
Nothing.
Just like go with the flow. Yeah.
It was literally nothing. It was just like, yeah, like make content. Like there was someone on the team, I forget his name, that literally did nothing. Like nothing. but literally nothing, and he was on the team. So it was very relaxed. Me being ambitious and like really caring about the brand and truly like wanting to introduce people to Discmania, I was definitely putting a lot of content out for that reason. When they changed from the media team to the ambassador team, I actually did sign a contract, and it was like, it had some really cool things in it. Like one of the things was that I was going to get to partner with one of the top pros to do content for. It never happened.
Oh man.
And that wasn't Avery running it at the time. That was somebody else. That's not with Discmania anymore. So we were, I felt like at first there wasn't any real guidance with it. So we were kind of under focused. Like we weren't really prioritized, which makes sense. I mean, you got people like Simon and Eagle pushing the sport to where they are. Like, you're going to put all your effort there. Yeah. And there was no hard feelings. I still got free product. I just didn't know what and when it would come. I'd just come home and have a Discmania box and be like, sweet, I got this disc I'll do something with. And it's very different today. Like, now that there's somebody dedicated to us, and like, I still don't, like, I didn't sign a contract technically, and there's not like a lot of requirements. It's more so like they send me stuff, and then we have a Facebook group that they post saying, this is the way that we would like for you to support us. And I think what will ultimately happen is towards the end of the year when we meet with him, it'll be like, hey, what did you do for us? Especially because they're sending us more product than we've ever gotten. And I think a big part of that is because Discmania is manufacturing themselves now, and they can control that. Like before, they wouldn't send us tour series stuff because all that money goes to the pros. And so like if we're taking away from those discs, they're not making money off us. But now that they're able to control the amount that they're making, I'm getting Razor Claw 3s, and I'm getting, the Nordic Phenoms and Arctic Fangs. Like I'm getting those now. Sure. Which is really cool. Cloud Breakers and that sort of thing. So it's very different this year. It's been great this year.
So I remember you doing I think it was a Roaming Thunder 2 video at one point. So you had to actually go out and get that yourself, or did you like contact Dana and you're like, hey, can you like send me one?
Dana sent me that one.
Yeah.
But I would say 65% of the Discmania reviews on my YouTube channel I bought with my own money.
Oh, wow.
Everything this year they have sent me. But like everything like last year and all the previous years, I pretty much bought with my own money.
Okay.
And that's how much I cared about the brand is like, dude, they're releasing these awesome discs. I want to show the world how good they fly. The Roaming Thunder 2 review, I still have trauma thinking about because I actually lost that disc during that review.
No way.
And like it wasn't at a disc golf course, it was at some random park, and like it's probably still in that field today. Like it was, but I was so sad that I lost that disc. Especially because Dana sent me that one personally, so it just felt really cool.
Oh man.
But I still bag a Roaming Thunder 2 today, and I have one in my backup stash.
Yeah.
So.
I got one right before, I don't remember what it was. And I posted it on Instagram. I was like, hey, I just got this. And then like a couple of days later, I was like, man, I'm really sad. I just lost it. And Dana reached out to me. He's like, do you think I should send you another? Like, he like put it to a poll. He's like, do you think I should send this guy another one? And he actually did. And I was like, oh my God. Thank you so much. That's super cool.
Dana's an incredible person.
Yeah.
He hit me up earlier this year and asked me if I would make some content for them, for their affordable portable basket.
Oh, cool.
And they sent me a basket, and without getting into too much details, my life flipped upside down with some changes, and I never got to it. And so I sent Dana a message, and I'm like, hey, man, like, let me know how much I owe you. I'm really sorry. Like, this is what happened. He was like, dude, like, don't even worry about it. Enjoy the basket. If you make a video, sweet. If not, like, sweet.
Yeah.
You know, and so, like, Dana has been an incredible person in my life, and I wish he was still touring and still more involved, but he's still good people, and it's been really cool to see what he's been doing with like disc golf parks and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because he's big in like wasn't there a new park in Chicago that he helped get together?
Yeah, I mean he's been a part of a couple different courses in Illinois now, so.
That's cool.
I don't remember where I met him, but I remember meeting him, and we've stayed in contact just a little bit. And then now through wholesale, it's, we talk by just, hey, I need something. Okay, no problem. But one of the most genuine individuals I've ever met in my life.
Truly, I remember being like 860 rated and messaging him on Instagram, like, hey, how does this disc fly? And he treats you like a person. So.
Yeah.
We always, a few of us always joke because there's an old video of him back when he was on Prodigy. I don't know if you knew he used to be on Prodigy. Mm-hmm. And there's an old video of him where he's talking about like putting tips.
Okay.
And he talks about like one of the tips being you have to love and treat the basket right. So like when you miss a putt, instead of getting mad, saying like, I really love this basket. And so for a while, me and the friends, when we would miss putts, we would look at each other and just go, I really love this basket. Just like super funny stuff like that.
Yeah. I think I remember that. He had a pretty big tuft of hair.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that video.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so that's kind of the story on how, I got involved with Discmania, and been really cool. And the person that runs the team now also runs the Discmania account now, like on Instagram. So you'll notice like they've never been more active on Instagram than they are now. They'll respond to every message they get, every comment they get. They'll comment on my stuff. They'll share my stuff. They'll share like random people. Like if you posted a video of you throwing something, they'd probably reshare it. Like, so his name is Davey, and he's been a great asset to that to them already. He even like relocated, moved to Colorado to be there and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I recently noticed the activity on posting for the shop and things like that. Anytime I tag, Discmania, they're right on top of it. And never before. It was just recently that started happening. So
yeah, and I think they finally just realized they need to hire someone to focus on media because they're a huge brand with a huge following, and so yeah.
Well, and they should see the beacons that they have between Simon and Eagle, and the weight that they pull with their social media.
100%.
I mean, it only translates to what that manufacturer should do.
Totally.
So
Yep.
yeah. So all right. So on to the next. Thank you, disc golf. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So I thought of the idea for a very long time, but I'm not an entrepreneur by any definition. My family grew up pretty poor, so like that was never in our cards. And then I married my wife, who has been an entrepreneur for most of her professional career. She owns her own salon. Aside from that, she also owns a traveling hair and makeup business with a business partner that will do your weddings on site. And she's got like real estate investments. So, very different from the way that I was raised. And so I always knew I wanted to start a brand of some sort, but I didn't want to do it just to do it. I didn't want to do it just to make money. Like I wanted it to actually be impactful and do something. And so I, brainstormed all sorts of different ideas, whether it was photography businesses or even like one of the things Caddie, I had like on my original Caddie website, I had a page for like course cleanup. Like if you ever wanted to like coordinate a course cleanup, you could do it through me, and I would like reach out and get volunteers and stuff. And then even like lessons, like just things like that, I wanted to consider doing, but I never felt inspired enough to do it. And then I thought about Thank You Disc Golf, which that came from my skateboarding roots. Mm-hmm. One of the most nostalgic times for me was like the early 2000s when a skateboard team would release a new video and you'd have to go buy the DVD, and then you'd sit in your living room with all your friends and you'd watch it and be mind boggled by what the tricks that were being done in the video were doing. And then technology kind of kicked in and those videos started to disappear. And now like when a skateboarder drops a part, it's like on YouTube. You can just like watch it when you want, and then that's kind of it. So one of the perks that came from social media and skateboarding though was this hashtag thank you skateboarding. And people have, they use it on so many posts, myself included, but the whole story or exposure part of it was like people thank skateboarding for what skateboarding has done in their lives, because for a lot of people it had literally saved people. There were people that were, in gangs and that sort of thing, and skateboarding kind of was their escape from that. There were people that, grew up in, abusive families or poverty or, mental health, or you name it, and skateboarding was the one thing that they could go to. It's one of the most inclusive sports in the world, and, it's just, for a lot of people, like there's a lot of gratitude for what people, for what skateboarding has done for people. And so like when I see the thank you skateboarding hashtag, I think of like, it's like an intimate thank you for what the sport has done for what skateboarding has done for people. And for me, like I fit into that category. Like I have no idea where I would be if it wasn't for skateboarding. I've always kind of grown up like overweight. I was not like physically inclined in any sort of like sport talent. And skateboarding was like, I didn't have to be in front of people. I could just go and do my own thing. I didn't need anything but the skateboard. It could be in a parking lot. Like I didn't need much. So that was like my escape through a lot of the childhood things that I went through. And so like now into my 30s, not nearly skateboarding as much because I don't recover as fast as I used to. And, I fell and stuff. And so I was thinking about how disc golf has so much in line with skateboarding. They're both kind of these like indie kind of. Well, when I started, skateboarding was a bit more indie. It's pretty dang popular now. Being in the Olympics and all now. But at the time, it was kind of this indie sport. Like, people didn't really understand why people did it, especially when you were an adult. Like, a lot of non-skateboarders would say, like, grow up, move on. Like, why do you still play with this toy, And it was one of those things where you were a part of a team, but you were still competing against your teammates, if you were, like, competing or whatever. And, like, disc golf is very much the same. There's a bunch of people on Discmania, but when it comes to a tournament, they're still competing against each other.
Yep.
So, every skateboarder, like a kickflip, like if I did a kickflip, Shane did a kickflip, you did a kickflip, Tony Hawk did a kickflip, they'd all look completely different. Like, there's no right way to do a kickflip. There's no right way to throw an Anheuser. There's, like, form is so unique. And, like, there's just so many things that are so similar between the two that it's no wonder that eventually when I softened my heart towards disc golf with my buddy working at Cousins, that I fell in love with it. And in a lot of ways, like, it has done a lot for me. Like, even the people that I've met, Mike Harrington is kind of the reason why I'm even known to any extent, just the platform that he gave me to be able to be involved in his leagues and help him with his tournaments and eventually run my own league and run my own tournament and that sort of thing. Like, the friends that I've met and everything, like, I just have a lot to thank. Some of my best friends came from disc golf, and I just, like, I've just the same way that I've wanted people to, like, start skating when I was a kid, like, I want people to get into disc golf. And so based on that, it was just like, thank you, disc golf, for everything going on. And I was like, you know what? I think there's something there. Like, hashtag thank you disc golf isn't really a thing. Some people have used it, but not really. And I think that, like, there's something I could do here. So I tried to think of, like, what I could do that would be considered a business, but that would also be, like, impactful or would, like, help grow the sport and actually make a difference. Something that I, like, it was clear that my intent wasn't to make money. And I was like, a clothing brand. There's not a lot of clothing brands that are like who goes like, I'm going to be a millionaire with this clothing brand. There's some people that I guess have had success in that realm. But, like, when I think of, thank you disc golf, especially in a sport as niche as disc golf right now, like, I'm not going to make millions in it. And so I decided that I wanted to use that as a platform to just share people's gratitude for the sport and, like, also connect the community by hearing people's stories. What really solidified it for me, though, was that video that Joe Miz did on Paul Macbeth, where they talked about, like, where he grew up and how he grew up and, like, the stuff that you don't hear about.
Right.
Like, adjacent to that, one of my favorite podcasts is called The Nine Club with Chris Roberts, which is a skateboarding podcast. Chris Roberts was a skateboarder in his prime when I was growing up. And he literally just cracks open LaCroix with pros and he says, like, so where were you born? And he like gets in depth, like, how did you find a skateboard? Like, he asks some really in-depth questions and, like, you learn all about their journey in skateboarding. And, like, that's what I wanted Thank You Disc Golf to be. I want it to be outside of the surface level, like, yeah, disc golf, like, how'd you get sponsored? You know what I mean? Like, I want to be like I want to hear about their lives. I want to try to get vulnerable with it. And so, yeah, that's what it came out to be. So the clothing side of Thank You Disc Golf, like, you'll hear me talk a lot about just very minimalistic designs. Again, I don't want it to be flashy. I don't want it to be this huge business or big company. I just want it to, like, if people are thankful about disc golf, like, if disc golf has changed their lives and they want to wear it on a shirt, that's kind of where I'm heading at. And I'm even thinking of, like, the conversations that could start. Like, thank you disc golf. What's that? Well, disc golf is this, you know what I mean? Like, it could be a platform to introduce more people to it. But that's only like half the side of the business. And honestly, the less important side of the business, the main side of it is the storytelling aspect.
Right.
So that's where I got my motivation. I talked to Monica about it. I'm like, I really want to do this, but I don't know what I'm doing. And she's just like, well, you just got to do it. Like, you just got to try.
Jump in. Yep.
You just got to jump in and try. And so, I started using, like, those, what do they call them? Print-on-demand companies.
Sure. Yep.
And so I, like, started getting some samples in. I had a friend design the logo. The logo is it's nothing like super super fancy. It's like in the shape of a tee pad, and it says "Thank you, disc golf." So
I love it.
Sweet.
I don't know if I ever said it to you, but like I immediately bought like a hoodie and a shirt, and I think I bought a hat too. And I love the fact that it's so minimalistic, and it's like if you know, you know.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, and it's beautiful. Like I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I shared a very brief vision with my friend Leanna, who did the design. She does not come from disc golf at all, and she absolutely killed it.
Yep.
So the only change that I made is she had more like brighter, flashier colors, and I was just like, I kind of want to go earth tone because disc golf is pretty nature based. So that was the only change I made. Most of the work was her craftsmanship. So I'm glad to hear that you like it and so forth. So anyhow, I launched officially in January of 2022 this year. And like my store absolutely blew up, primarily by people that know I exist, which is awesome. And then in March, it all plummeted. And it's because I'm not an entrepreneur. I've never done this before. I still don't have a story recorded. And we're now in October of 2022. Obviously, my life flipped a little bit this summer with some pretty big life changes. And so I had to put this on pause, which is okay. It's not like, I heard this quote where it's like, you only fail if you don't start again. Or you only give up if you don't start again. And I'm like, okay, like as long as I start again, I didn't fail. Like, you know what I mean? And so that's been super, super good. So the plan now for the rest of the year is I have some people in mind that I'm filming stories on. And we're going to do a relaunch in January. I also got some feedback from some of the early product and want to make a couple changes. I'm using Printful, and the reason why I chose them is because that's actually who Foundation uses, I guess. Someone told me that.
Okay.
So I was like, well, Foundation's pretty big. Like, stuff must be decent, Yeah. But the goal eventually is to partner with local company for all my clothing. I'm a big local guy. For example, I won't go to Starbucks. I'll only go to the local mom and pop shops. Just nothing against Starbucks. They do great things for their employees, but I just like local businesses more. I think skateboarding roots came from that too, like supporting a local shop instead of buying online, that kind of thing. I'm sure you guys have heard of MIDI, but I've been talking to Andy Braun a lot about partnering and maybe having them do all of the line, which would be really cool. But still trying to figure out what I want to offer and what that's going to look like, and how much physical inventory to plan for, and all of that stuff. So the print on quite frankly, the print on demand side of it was a risk reward thing. It was a safety net to see if people would even like this.
Yeah, dip your toes in the water a little bit there.
I think there's something there. I just need to really invest in it and give it my all. I got opinions from so many people, even a couple touring pros, and have gotten nothing but really positive feedback. So I think if I, give it my all and really invest in this, I think it could turn into something really big. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to quit my day job, and nor did I get into it for that reason. I think it'll always be something I do on the side, but yeah, we'll see. So next year, not going to get into too many details just yet, but next year there's going to be a lot of changes in hopes to free up time to just be able to focus solely on this. For 365 days, I want to give it my all, see what it turns into, and then we'll see what the next year folds after that.
Cool.
Well, I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
I really am.
I was going to ask, as far as creating the culture in the community with Thank You Disc Golf, and you mentioned skateboarding before and kind of getting your idea from there. Is there anything that disc golf can take from the skateboarding community and apply to us, and vice versa? Are there things that you can see we could learn or they could learn from either sport,
I mentioned that skateboarding is one of the most inclusive functions. There are people from all sorts of ethnicities and races and sexual preferences, and I mean, you name it, that, they come together and they cheer for that person who landed their first kickflip, It's just a very welcoming community. And I think disc golf in some ways is pretty welcoming. I think we're obviously at a very interesting point in disc golf right now, with, just having conversations about some of the things that have gone on tour with certain players and that sort of thing.
You can say we're fine with all that stuff.
Yeah.
We've mentioned it plenty.
If you want to, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I want to be respectful because, obviously, I'm talking about the Natalie Ryan stuff right now, and I have a lot of empathy towards her because, for her, it's like she might not be able to tour next year, and from a human to human side, I empathize. I don't have enough information to really feel like I have a valid opinion on either way at this point. But if you read the comment sections on any posts related to her, disc golf's not very kind in a lot of ways. We still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And even if a decision that is against her is the right decision, there's still, or vice versa, even if the PDGA doesn't change anything about it, she gets to tour, the way that you handle yourself still matters. And so posting about how Kristen Tatar won that tournament, not Natalie Ryan, or the kind of the hateful comments there, it's counterproductive. It doesn't, there's no empathy in that sort of realm. And so I think that's where skateboarding is a little different. I mean, skateboarding is built on rebellion. Disc golf really isn't. And so the more you rebel, the kind of more attractive you are in skateboarding, I guess. But that would be the only thing is we can accept people without disagree. We can accept people while disagreeing with certain things. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of that in disc golf. Even Nico, a lot of people really struggle with Nicola Castro and his anger management, and there are definitely consequences that come with that. But at the end of the day, he's a human, and we can still respect and empathize. And there's still I don't know. These are at this point subjective, personal opinions, but I think that's one of the things that skateboarding still has on disc golf is just that ability to be a little bit more loving. And don't get me wrong, it's not flawless. I mean, there's feuds for sure, but it's just different, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'll speak on behalf of myself. I found that disc golf has a very protectionist mentality. Not in my sport. It's that my sport, our sport thing. And I think with this whole Natalie Ryan thing, I mean, we've been very vocal about it. I think both you and I lie on basically the same line that she's not doing anything wrong. She's competing in a division that she's allowed to compete in. I think where we see the fault is, with the PDGA. We've gone over this, and we got called out for gaslighting.
Yeah, we did.
And I wasn't quite sure where that came from, but it is what it is, and we went back and self-analyzed and everything, but we've been very open about saying she's not doing anything wrong. Until the rules are changed in one way, shape, or form, she's absolutely 100% in her rights, and she won that tournament. I mean, there's no difference in it.
Correct.
And I agree. When you get on the social medias, it's amazing to see not only the vocal minority that's out there, blasting it, but then you see that silent majority down there too, liking posts that are the same thing. And you're just man, I understand you want to be heard, so there's that side of it, but there's also the side that, what about that person that's watching those likes that this is about? That means something. That little thumbs up that you think is kind of nothing, it just makes you feel a little better, it's destroying the person on the other end of it.
Truly.
And that bandwidth bravery is just something really crazy, you know. And personally, how you feel about it, whether you're a person of faith or not, and this aligns with it or doesn't, what does that have to do with disc golf?
Right.
That is a personal opinion, and that is something that you can keep to yourself or not. Either way, I mean, you're allowed to say it if you want to, but it has nothing to do with whether she's right or wrong in her, her play. And so I get that when you're talking about with. You talk about the origins of skateboarding, Dogtown and all that stuff. I mean, that's exactly what it was. It was rebels, these kids that were going out and finding pools and stuff like that to go skate and just be with their buddies and drink and, do those rebellious things when they weren't supposed to be doing them and break outside of that, that Hollywood persona that they were living in LA,
Right.
And I love to see that in skating, and I think in disc golf we could use a little bit of that because, like I said, you just have this protectionist, like not in my sport, like. Yeah, I want to see it, but no, not here. You know, it's like I'm okay with it, but no, now it's affecting me. Like, come on.
For sure. I think for me too, like, it's easy to like use logic to come to a decision on like the direction that disc golf should take regarding like Natalie and Ryan and stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's so much about the topic that I'm so uneducated on about.
Right.
Another thing too is like, as me as a male, like, does my opinion really matter? Like, I feel like the women probably, like, their opinions probably matter far more, you know, and it's like, you know, I just don't feel qualified to really be able to speak any truth on the matter. Mm-hmm. What I will say is Natalie Ryan posted on her Instagram story saying, you know, reflecting on my year has been bittersweet, knowing it could be my last.
Sure.
And to read that is tough. Like, from human to human, like, I couldn't imagine if, like, one day I woke up and everything that I had worked so hard for was like taken away, for whether valid or not valid.
Right.
You know, I can't imagine the feelings and thoughts and emotions that she is having as a result of that. And so that's what I tend to see in this whole matter, is like the person that is dealing with it, which is a bummer. You don't see that as much in skateboarding, though.
Yeah. Well, and with this whole Natalie Ryan thing, how is it not? I mean, that survey, I am still, and I will hold to it, horrible.
I didn't even look at it. I saw I saw everyone's feedback on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, I'm not even going to open up. It's going to make me mad.
Well, and that's really what it was. I mean, it was very subjective, coercive, divisive. I mean, there was a lot of things in there, and I'm doubling down on it, even though we got called down on it. I don't have any harsh, like... It
was copied from, like, a university, right? I heard
university
that,
produced it.
Okay, that's what I heard. I heard it was like produced or something by
like, and it was a board member that worked at a university, so it came through the grasp of. But nevertheless, I think the survey is what it is. It's out there, and for Natalie Ryan to sit there and know that survey happened because of her, and that sucks.
Yeah,
that sucks. You know, because once again, she's not doing anything wrong. Life choices aside, or however the proper way to say that is, you know, her situation and her life aside, she competed properly and exactly how she should.
Right.
It was what it was, you know? And it's unfortunate that that's how it comes out. And you talk about, was it your choice? I think that's something we also said, like, who are we?
Right.
You know, first of all, it's not a division that affects us because we're mixed. Mm-hmm. And I know we got called out for that as well. It's men's. No, it's mixed. It truly is mixed.
It's mixed. Yep.
Like, so for us, whoever wants to play can play. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't have anything to say about it, you know? But this is truly a protected division. But I don't want to go down this rabbit hole anymore. Like,
and I didn't mean to go down that rabbit hole.
Not at all. It's good topics to have. And it's as long as it's reasonable discourse and people have civil conversations about it, it's great. It's when you get those a-holes online that think they, you know, that they're going to destroy someone's life.
We're very entitled these days.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Social media is a big reason for that.
Yeah. It does some brilliant things, but man, it does some bad stuff too.
Truly.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, to answer your original question, what can we take away from skateboarding? That's the one thing that comes to my mind. Other than that, I don't know that there's anything else we could take away from skateboarding. I don't know, that and some interesting beef that I have is when people on the internet will give people crap for like throwing a driver on a hole that they should be throwing a mid-range on. It's like, dude, the scorecard doesn't record the disc that you threw to get that score. Like, let it go. Like, I threw a fairway driver pretty much on every hole during the tournament on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Everyone else on my card mate were throwing like justices and zones, and I'm like, well, guess what? I took top card on our card. You know, like, it that makes me sound so prideful. I'm sorry. I just like that's a pet peeve of mine. Is like, no, I don't need to be throwing a MD3 on this hole, and my FD will get right next to the basket too. You know, but that's not like skateboarding. I guess there technically isn't any of that. Like, no one's like, oh, dude, that kickflip wasn't tweaked enough. Like, you should redo it. Like, it's like, you did a kickflip, dude. That's so sick. Nice work. You know, it's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
I've noticed in like when I was younger, so BMX and freestyle, and then, inline skating at the time and skateboarding, the trends would just catch and they would go through. There was none of the questioning. Like with disc golf, like these are tools that you use, and every disc does something different. Everybody has their opinion on what disc is the best disc. And, I always make jokes about like, oh, you don't putt with the judge? Well, that's why you don't putt well. And I was just joking. And I think with like wheel sizes, like diameters, like when I was messing around in that area, like diameters is wheels, and they just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller, And you're like, where are the wheels going? But and they just go up and down, just depending on the right size, depending on what pros run what wheel, and so. But yeah, that's neat.
I will say there hasn't been a lot of trends in disc golf really. Like skateboarding, there's trends in like the way that you dress, or the way that you do a trick, or the type of tricks that you're doing.
Yeah,
like. There really isn't any of that in disc golf. I mean, Simon may come out with a video with a bunch of spike hyzers and inspire a bunch of kids to start learning spike hyzers.
Yeah.
But, like, there isn't a lot of the, like, fashion trends or anything that really come through disc golf. I notice it.
Brody tried to create that revolution when he first got in, and now he's completely flipped. So, Wait, what's that look? Are you not a Brody fan?
I am very grateful for the exposure to the sport that Brody has brought.
Mm-hmm.
There's
and
a period.
That's where it
that's
is.
the period.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I am personally not crazy about Brody Smith. I think it's incredible what he has been able to do in his short time with disc golf.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think if you come from a professional athlete background like he did with Ultimate, and he has no full-time job, and his full-time job is to go out to a field and practice and get good, I would expect you to be 1,000 rated your first year.
Yeah.
I feel that way.
Yeah.
If he was not super athletic, or he came from a sport like baseball or basketball, and he had to work towards this, like, I think I'd be far more impressed.
Yeah.
But I'm just not. And obviously he kind of came into disc golf very loudly. No pun intended.
But made. It was a good one.
Yeah, he had so many fascinating opinions, and some valid, some not so valid.
Mm-hmm.
We all know his opinion on ratings and what happened when he hit 1,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
he made a lot of money is what happened.
Yeah.
And obviously there was a falling out with him and Paul McBeth, like arguably one of the most respected men in disc golf. So like there's something going on there.
Yeah.
Again, very grateful for the exposure that he's brought to the sport. But at the end of the day, like if he retired tomorrow, I don't know that it would affect my life at all.
Sure. So let's start ending it on a happy note.
Yeah.
Best disc that you've ever thrown.
That I've ever thrown.
He's got a smile on his face. He's like thinking,
Let's see if you guys can guess it.
That if we can guess
Yeah,
it?
if you can guess my favorite disc I've ever thrown.
The only one I can think of is the Enigma. Because you do like the Enigma.
it's his license plate. The DX wedge. Yeah.
The wedge, forgot about that.
The Innova wedge,
Yeah.
in my opinion, is the best disc I've ever thrown. It's the most life-changing disc that I've ever thrown. So, quick story there. So, 2014, 13, was up in Stevens Point playing with my friend that got me into disc golf. And we played a league at Yoga, which I don't know if you've ever played Yoga. Such a fun course. It was a winter league, and I got points or whatever, so I had a payout. And I was looking at their discs, and I found this DX wedge, and I laughed because it was a 3.5 speed. It was the first time I ever seen a half-speed disc. And it was like a 3.5, 3 minus 3.1, just like absolutely ridiculous mold.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It was created by Edge Disc Golf, which is educational disc golf for kids, and the disc was a partnership with Innova to like introduce disc golf to gyms, like gym programs, PE programs. So they were very beginner friendly. But again, I couldn't stop focusing on that 3.5 speed. So I grabbed it as a joke and I put it in the bag, and it became like the flippiest disc ever. But I had learned I had built so much chemistry with it that like I found myself reaching for it all the time. I could give it so much hyzer and it would flip up and turn over. So like if I needed to get real technical with it, if I needed to get out of jail with forehand or something, like it it became such a staple in my bag. And then Mike Harrington for Christmas one year gave me a Proto Star wedge.
Ooh.
And then I mentioned wide dry chalk bags earlier. Tara gave me another one. So now I have two of them.
That's
So I
awesome.
got my one that I bag and one that I don't even know if I'm allowed to bag it like with Discmania. I technically can bag a mixed bag with Discmania technically.
Oh.
Especially because I'm not under contract. I just obviously can't promote any,
Sure,
molds. And
sure.
and I think just to be radically candor here on the podcast, I bag the wedge and then I bag a Infinite Disc Sphinx. It's like a flippier CD2, readily available to get at this point. So those are kind of the only non-Discmania discs that I have in the bag right now. But yeah, so like I kept the Protostar wedge in there, and like it's changed everything. I have a 150-foot jump putt because of that disc.
That's crazy.
Like I kid you not, you can hyzer flip it on a jump putt. Like give it hyzer and it'll flip up flat and flex. It's amazing. So even just this Sunday, I had a lot of people like, "Wow, you can jump putt really far," and it's like, no, I can't. This disc is just a cheat code. So
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, so that, in my opinion, that's my favorite mold ever. The best disc ever created. It would probably have to be, in my opinion, slower arm speed player, but the Meteor by Discraft is like, it's very Originate, like very much like the Origin.
Yeah.
But like I bagged Meteors before I started working with Discmania pretty religiously. Glow and ESP Meteors, just such a fantastic disc. So
Yeah. It's actually one of the discs that I try to recommend to almost every single beginner disc golfer that comes out, because everybody wants to reach for the drivers. I'm just like, take this Meteor, you'll have a ton of fun.
Ton of glide. It's not, obviously it's finicky in the wind, but like I think that you can build chemistry with any mold after throwing it a while and really learning it. And so like the Meteor was that disc for me before. Now it's the Enigma. In the Discmania lineup, it's specifically the Vapor Enigma.
Yeah.
They're a little more flippy for my arm speed.
They start out pretty overstable though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone listening, I throw like 360, 370 on a good day. So
It's like the comment for me. I mean, Dylan made me feel a little weird this weekend for Pastry Dice. I was like, "Hey, you got any comments?" And he goes, "No one's even asked me for a comment in like 3 or 4 years." I was like, "Wow, thanks." Like salt in the wound, man.
yeah.
So,
But then he proceeded to go buy like however many dollars of like leadstone discs.
a ton of stuff. Yeah. A ton of stuff. No, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was good to get to know him. All right. Anything else you want to leave us with?
No, just thank you for having me on here. Love the podcast and excited to go back and cringe over hearing my voice recorded. But yeah, thanks for the hospitality up here in Door County too.
Absolutely.
Lending me one of your cottages for the last couple days, and I love being up here. I wish that I could be up here more, but it just makes October that much more special. So
Sure.
looking forward to 365 days where I get to see you guys and do it all over again.
Yeah.
Well, less.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Well,
That's true.
Yeah.
come out to the springtime, it'll be even less.
Oh, that's right. You guys do springtime. That's Josh Ham, right?
Yeah.
Josh Ham. What month is that?
Just talked to him today. It's going to be April 2nd and 3rd.
April 2nd.
So just after the
I
spring
think
opener.
I thought about it this year, but wasn't there still like a lot of snow?
No.
It was
actually.
beautiful this
But
year.
it did snow lightly and rain.
That day. Oh, it did
Yeah.
this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing about April tournaments. You never know what you're gonna get. You could wear shorts and a like short sleeve one, like you could, or you could be in snow pants.
Well, that's the funny thing because in the
snow.
morning is when it rained and snowed, and then by the afternoon it got like sunny and like kind of nice.
Yep.
But it was still just
Because I'm
Yeah, I
trying to
don't
think, the first time I ever like really had a personal contact with you, wasn't it that I was asking you to come up and either film and it was a springtime that we had like 24 inches of snow? Didn't I? Wasn't that the one?
I'll have to go back and look at our chats.
Because I don't remember
Yeah.
when we officially started to actually communicate.
Yeah,
know
I knew about you ahead of time because of Harrington, but yeah, I don't know when our first interaction was, but I'm
Yeah.
sure it was on Facebook Messenger and it's probably still there.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure
I'll
it
have
is.
to take a look. Yeah.
That's another dangerous part about social media.
I know, it saves everything. Yeah.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure having you, and I want to say that I was, one of the nicest, most kind people I've ever met in my life. And I was super stoked that you and Caden were in the same cart together.
Oh yes, that Caden, if you're listening, dude, I had so much fun hanging out with you. And send me a picture of your tiny house. I want to see it.
Did he tell you all the stories behind it? Everything. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, Caden and I talked the entire time. And when Mike decided to keep cards, like I saw Caden from the other side of the room. Mike was like, "Who wants to keep cards?" I saw Caden like rip his hand up and stare right at me, and I'm like, "Yeah." And Caden played up this year. He technically he plays rec. He played intermediate. He shot well above. I think he actually ended up averaging his rating, but he played extremely well. So it was. That dude rules.
Yeah. Well, and he reminds me a lot. Like you two remind me a lot of each other, but he's a guy that disc golf doesn't affect him. Like he's just fun all the time. Like just super happy all the time. Like
that
doesn't
dude
matter
started
what happens.
singing "Cher" during our card.
Sounds right.
And for like 3 or 4 holes straight, I just every time I was like walking back from my shot, I would sing it, and I'd look at Ken and be like, "Dude, why out of all these
Was it
songs?"
like Believe in Life After Love?
That's 100% it. That's exactly what we were singing. So
Well, you're welcome. It's back.
yeah, and then he was telling me about him and his wife's Halloween costumes last year. They were Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy from SpongeBob. So I got to know. It's funny because like obviously I've met Caden. We've talked like at my time up here, and I forget what year it was, but we had the breakfast at Julie's together, and that's when I really got to meet him and Bjorn and like all them. And I hadn't really talked to him, and Mike told me like, "Hey, I carded you with Caden," and I'm like, "Sweet, looking forward to getting to know him more." And we literally just sat and talked, and fortunately, both of us played really good golf during it too. So not good enough, but the person who won, I think it was Joe
Paulson.
I played doubles with that guy, and him and his brother are freaking cool people.
Joe and
too.
Jake,
There's a lot of cool people up here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm already looking forward to getting to hang out with Caden again.
Yeah. And Joe's down in your neck of the woods, so.
Oh, is it?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's the UWM.
Oh, Joe's down there. His brother's up here, though, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so Joe's our summer shop guy.
Sweet. Yeah, Joe's awesome. We had a good time, and he shot such a hot. It was like 971 rated to come back and win it. And I remember connecting with him after round 1. I'm like, "How'd you play?" He's like, "Not good, man. Not good." And then 971 to take the win by he beat Fozzie by 2 strokes, 1 stroke, something like that. So.
Yeah, because he was 7 strokes back, I think, and he came back to win it. I think it was 6 or 7 strokes back, and but that's Joe. Joe can light up a league night. And then the next night, you're like, "What happened?" He's like, "I don't know."
Random fact. This is the 4th year in a row that I have found myself either in second or in first going into the final round.
Really?
And I have not figured out how to close. Someday I will win. This will be the first. I've never won a tournament. This will be the first tournament that I win. I promise you.
That's great.
That's my goal anyhow.
Sustained second round wind was ridiculous. Like the first round, it was gusty, and then like you'd get like, some lulls here and there. But the second round, it was like started to cool off, and then it was just sustained wind.
I just started taking really stupid, like OB strokes. That's really what did it for me. Yeah. I think I shot 1 under, which when Joe's shooting 8 under, but
it's hard to keep up.
Last year I was tied for first going into the second round, and I ended up losing by 4 strokes. This year I lost by 3. So I feel like we're getting closer and closer. And in 2 years I'll force my way into a playoff, and then I'll lose that, and then the next year I'll figure it out. Hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, there was a long time I was a bridesmaid. I remember I was always complaining about it. Like every time I'd be second or third at almost every tournament I went to. I mean, I think you like with Sandy Knoll and all that stuff. And finally I popped my cherry at Sandy Knoll, and that was it. Had a couple wins after that, and then I got hurt, and here I am.
MA1 wins?
MA1 wins,
That's so sick. I remember a couple of years ago I moved up to MA1 because Ken and Jarrett did, and like the only way I'd ever see them is if I played MA1 because the MA1's on Saturday with the pros. And I remember I moved to MA1 and started shooting rec ratings. I was shooting better when I was in intermediate, and so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go back to my division. I'm going to move up to MA1 when I actually deserve it. Yeah. So
I remember I was super stoked for you. I was like so happy, and then met you at Subway the thing after. And it's like, I'm going back.
And obviously like only throwing 370. When you go to MA1, you start throwing long pads, and it's like, the distance becomes a real factor there. It doesn't when you play shorts.
No.
Like if you're MA2 and you throw 450, great. The hole's only 300. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
There's no great advantage there. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I've gotten to a point where like, you know, Ken and Jarrett turned pro 2 years ago. And they've been struggling a bit since becoming pro, but like they got above that 975 at one point. Like they earned it. And Ken and I used to have battles. Like before I broke my arm, it wasn't uncommon for me to beat him. And like I kind of started over and plateaued, and Ken got really, 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 really good. And now if I beat him, it's like not because I played well, it's because Ken shot terrible. So it's like it's not, you know what I mean? So I used to have big ambitions. Like I wanted to be a local pro. I never had the dream of being 1,000 rated, but like I'd love to be able to play a pro tournament and cash sometimes. And you know, to do it, you have to work, and I don't have the ambition or the drive or the time to devote into that. Now I just want to try to get as good as I can and hope that I get good enough to play MP40.
Yeah.
I'm 40 years old. Hopefully by then Steve Held is retired. So I don't that guy wins all the time. He's so good.
There's a lot, and Jordan's just rising through the ranks now.
He moves up to open and takes third.
Yeah.
Just good for him.
Yeah. No, I'm super stoked for him, but it's kind of hard because I was always the best player in Door County. And then Jordan goes on this streak. I get hurt. Jordan goes on this streak. I'm healthy now, but like I'm nowhere near him anymore.
Yep.
Like I think I got to hand the mantle over to him, you know.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
all right. So any more inspiring words to live by?
Make sure you drink water.
There,
Stay hydrated.
there you go. There you go.
That's more of a like self post-it note. Like, drink more because I'm drinking a Coke Zero right now. So
That's when you're listening to this. I'm like, oh, I'll go get some water.
Yeah.
So should we skip your OnlyFans? We'll just
Yeah.
wait on that one?
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. We have a running joke of the OnlyFans that JP has. He'll
love
never
it.
let it go.
that's great.
I don't know why.
I don't know if it's that great.
You know what? This is the second podcast I've ever done. And the first time I did a podcast, I said like a million words wrong.
Uh-huh.
Like I said like fruitation instead of fruition. And I don't think I said a single word wrong on this podcast.
Not that I know of. Not that
So
I know
Nice.
of.
like 970 rated podcast for me.
Hey.
Yeah. Well, you did just say fruitation, so that's like.
Yeah, but
But I
Well,
did it intentionally.
Yeah.
Oh, true. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Maybe. Fuck, we'll call it 950. Still above my rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
That's always good. That's why I always tell people if it wasn't for trees, I'd be 1,000 rated
Oh, that's
for sure.
I played easily 750 rated golf on Saturday during doubles where you had to hit lines. Yeah. And then at the orchards, you can grip walk and still park the hole. So that's why I play so well there. every
Especially
year.
with the wind, just put it out there and let it
Yeah,
eat.
exactly. Just throw something over stable, it'll get in the circle. So,
All right. Well, with all that said, let's keep it subpar. Peace.
peace.